Welcome to episode 154 of the Sports Geek podcast. In this week's episode, I chat social media and digital and athletes, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host who looks up to Shaquille O'Neal because he's so damn tall, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. Yes, who doesn't look up to Shaquille O'Neal, a NBA legend and now a podcaster, much like myself. I don't mind listening to Shaq's podcast, the Big Shaq podcast on Podcast One, for a laugh every now and then. Shaq doesn't take himself too seriously, but as a businessman, he's investing in a lot of good things. As a part owner of the Sacramento Kings and also investing in esports, he is someone I want to eventually get on this podcast. My name is Sean Callanan, and you're listening to the Sports Geek podcast. You might be doing so at sportsgeekhq.com, or you might be doing it on your favourite podcast app. Hopefully it's mine, Pocket Casts. I've mentioned it now over 100 times, so hopefully a few of you have converted. As always, if you want to reach out to me, Sean at sportsgeekhq.com. If you want to try the old-fashioned way, email, or send me a tweet at Sean Callanan on most platforms, including our Sports Biz Slack community with now over 1,000 sports execs from around the world. This podcast is an extension of a podcast I've done previously on episode 107, but really was triggered by a conversation I had on ABC Sunday Sessions with Kelly Underwood. I was invited in to talk on ABC Radio after some discussion around AFL footballers and athletes in general, how they're using social media, some of the links potentially to the pressures that they're under, with a few footballers putting their hands up for depression, as sort of discussed with Blake Solly and the pressures on athletes. So, and one of my points that I do make in the interview, which you're going to get in just a moment, is that athletes sort of need this ongoing training and it needs to evolve. So I thought it was worth revisiting what I'd done in episode 107 and how some of my advice has changed. But first, have a listen to my chat with the ABC Sunday Sessions crew with Kelly Underwood, Jules Schiller, and Nathan Burke. And after that, I'll have some more thoughts on the matter.
Sean Callanan is a sports digital expert who has educated young AFL players about social media. He's been good enough to join us in the commentary box here at Docklands on the Sunday Session. Sean, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit about the role that you've played in teaching young AFL players about social media.
Yeah, so I've worked with both the teams and leagues around how to use digital, and social's been a big part of that. And the athletes are the targets of the social networks. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. They know that that's where the fans are coming. And so they're selling them and I've been one of the people selling them that it is a great space to build up your brand because, the life of football is short and it becomes a really valuable asset to them from a marketing point of view. If they want to say, go to a shop appearance or open a new bar or sell some T-shirts, whatever they want to do, you're seeing footballers have all these business lines. That's a really good marketing channel. But as was said there in the discussion, things like the swim team in 2012, and the swimmers reading all the tweets and then getting a not well adjusted view of the world, and it starts distracting them from the game. So one of the things that when I'm talking to players is to not let it encroach on the game. The game is their job, and I think that's what Luke Beveridge is trying to say, to cut it out. And they need to say, put my phone away. One of the things I say when I'm telling the players is like, have a routine. They're very good with routine. So as you're going to the game, take that shot, do that Instagram post or whatever, and say, looking forward to the game, and then turn the phone off and start focusing on the game. So it's about getting those processes in place so it fits into their life, because I think saying you can't be on it is too extreme, because then footballers are pretty isolated anyway. If they can't be on social media and connect with just their friends, because they've been on these platforms since they were 13, 14, and that's how they connect with their mates from school and their mates who have normal lives, don't have the microscope. Now they can't they can't post where they are all the time. They can't, they have to manage it a little bit from their own personal brand, but they still want to be connected with their friends and family. So saying to shut it out will only make footballers more isolated than they already are. They're not they're not out there with the people all the time. And if they're not talking with their friends, it'll become more isolating.
Do you actually recommend some players get off? Because, I mean, in the media, and I know certain players, you from time to time you do cop abusive tweets or negative tweets, and you think you can handle them, and I think most people can, but occasionally when you're a player like Tom Boyd or Travis Cloke, I mean, it's the sheer volume of it, because the papers you question their future fans, are automatically drawn to their accounts, and it's the volume, and I've had this, it's the volume that can overwhelm you, and I think that's when issues start. So do you say to players, you're a focal point now, you're being pinpointed in the media, get off?
There is a bit of that. There is a bit of, when players are going through a crisis, and, remember when Kurt Tippett went from Adelaide to Sydney, and the Adelaide Crows fans weren't happy about it, and they said, what should I do? I said, just delete Twitter off your phone. It's, and give it 6 months or give it 3 months, and when you're comfortable going back into it, go back into it. I think it is also a platform by platform problem. I think Twitter has recently put up its hand. It has got an abusive problem, and it's got an app that puts all of those mentions right in your face. Whereas Instagram has a lot of those comments and some vile comments on the posts, but if you're just going in and tapping on photos and looking at photos, they're not as in your face. And Snapchat's the same. Serena Williams has said she prefers Snapchat because it's more broadcast and not as social. So she puts out a post and not everyone has to comment on it. She just has to read that.
Is the AFL a little bit behind the times then when it comes to dealing with social media? When you say the elite athletes of the world, the uber superstars like Serena Williams is on Snapchat, does there need to be more education so they are... Because social media moves so quickly.
I do think that is the case. Like, I've done sessions with the AFL players as the new draft kids come out.
Yep.
And I've done that. But so you're teaching these kids at 17, 18 what it is. But they're not doing that training every single year. Like, the changes are coming through weekly.
Yeah.
Like, in these platforms. And so something changes. Like last week, Snapchat opened this thing called Snapchat Maps. And so you can open up Snapchat, pinch zoom, and it will show you where all the people are. Right? And so I used to have to tell all the players in an Instagram point, oh, God, by the way, don't put geolocation, because you know what? I can look at that map and that's your lounge room. Right? So there's these dangers from an athlete's point of view that they're not getting constantly trained to say, hey, guys, this is new. Turn this off, otherwise you're going to get caught out. And so it's ever evolving. And the other thing is the player goes 4 years after they've had their training as a rookie, and now they're starting to play as a 21, 22-year-old. No one's talking to them about it.
Yeah.
And now they're getting all this exposure as a debutant or whatever. And, again, they get all this positive, get your first kick. But then what do they do then?
And what happens every year with the AFL players is you get your racial and religious vilification talk, you get your drug talk, and it's the same one every single year, and players sit there and go, yep, tick the box, I've done here and done that. So this is something that they should do every year and replace a couple of those. For me, I've got two things. One is notifications in your phone. Turn off your notifications.
Completely.
What you need to do is, when you're in the right frame of mind, away from the game, I'm in a really good space right now, I'll sit there and read it. And then when you get the bad stuff, I like to visualise. The comic book guy from The Simpsons, the nerdy fat guy with a ponytail, sit behind his computer. Anyone who writes me a bad comment, that's what they look like. And it just says, you know what, I don't really need to take to heart what these people... Do you give them tactics and things like that to work on?
It is just about you control when you read it.
Yep.
And so, again, having that process, if you have a bad game, you know what's going to be in there. And you also know what's going to be in the papers and what's going to be in the radio. So if you've had a bad game, do you go and watch all the footy shows to find out you've had a bad game? Do you read all the papers to find out you had a bad game? They don't. They don't from a traditional media point. They just avoid it. I don't read that. But when they open up their phone and do it, they're like, they will get all that feedback.
When you're still buzzing away, 1 a.m. in the morning after a night game, and the temptation is right there and you can't sleep.
And it is a sport trolling. I remember I was getting trolled a lot by one guy, and I wrote back to him and say, aren't you more concerned about your family or other things than me? And he wrote back and said, it's a game that we play. We troll people, then we get blocked, and then I take a screenshot of getting blocked and send it to all my mates, and you'll go like, Hamish Blake blocked me. Jewel, and so it is a sport.
It is a sport.
And you can't take it to heart with some people.
So the trick for that is now, at least Twitter now has mute. So you, instead of blocking someone, you just mute them. They don't know you've muted them. You never see their stuff ever again, and they don't get the win of getting under your skin. So And the other pressure is when you do have athletes that do it well. And look at Andrew Bogut, who's got a really thick skin, has no problems having a chirp back, and has got a bit of smart to him. There's a lot of pressure for every athlete to be able to do that. Or to be entertaining, Swanee is killing Twitter all the way from Greece, right? Not everyone is as funny as Dane Swan, but the pressure is there to be an exceptional footballer and be super entertaining. That's what comedians do. It's not what athletes do. So there's also that pressure of, I've got to post something great, funny, be interesting, when they just want to be a normal person.
So when they're under the pump and they're copying it on social media, is your advice to bite back? Because often then the trolls will...
It is part of that game. It is. They're looking, like Jules said, they're looking for that fight.
What's your advice to AFL players that can be a little bit sensitive?
It is just, you don't give them oxygen. They want that oxygen. And so, if you sit, you're like, not worth it, mute, right? But then again, if you go back at one, or go back at a couple, they all go, oh, okay, now the sport's on. Let's see who can rile them up the most.
Is it reasonable for a coach to ask his players to get off social media? Because I think there's a lack of understanding that the young kids of today, that's their way of connecting with the world. It's how they get their news. They don't sit down at night and watch the traditional 6, 7 p.m. news. It's how they connect with their friends.
Yeah, and it is. And that's the unfair bit. I think, if they're on Facebook, yes, they've got to do everything to do around locking down their privacy settings, making it hard. They might use a fake name so they're not done, but they want to be able to connect with their friends. And so to tell them to cut them off from social media, yes, you go away from this problem, but now they're disconnected from their family and their mates and their teammates. And so that's more, I think that's the more problem if you said get off the platform altogether.
And you were a victim, Jules, of trolling not that long ago. I mean, how did you cope with that?
I apologised, Mel. I said sorry.
I've only got 3 Twitter followers. They all got together. No, I you know what I did? Because it gets overwhelming. I was copying it from everywhere. And people visit your private accounts and get into it. I actually just locked myself in my room, in my apartment, and ate lasagna and chocolate.
Really?
Like a Marsha from the Brady Bunch who broke up with someone. I actually did, and watched Netflix.
Yep.
It gets overwhelming and it's fatiguing.
And I've dealt with that both at a player level and a team level. It's about just focusing on the positives and saying you will have your own digital cheer squad and know that they've got your back and they will actually come to your defence. But other than that, just give it a spell.
Sean Callanan, thanks so much for dropping by from Sports Geek HQ, a sports digital expert.
Thanks again to the ABC crew, Kelly Underwood, for inviting me on. Really enjoyed it. It is quite strange going into a professional radio box. They're all lined up. Not much room to move about there. But it was good to go into Etihad Stadium and have that chat. And I wanted to, extend the discussion, and it sort of got me thinking what I'd said back in episode 107 when I was sort of looking at some of the guidelines around the Rio Olympics and what players are allowed to do and a bit of the pushback of the players. So that one was more of a policy discussion and what the players want to do and what they should do. And so I sort of talked about my number one rule when it's talking with athletes is you're not there to entertain. You're not an entertainer. You're not a comedian. And I did sort of touch on that in the discussion. You're a footballer or you're an athlete first, and secondary is you're a public figure on these platforms. So, the pressure, I think, to entertain and be witty and those kind of things is real. And to a certain degree, they just need to let that go. And then the second, my primary rule when talking to athletes is my Arnie Kath rule that I discussed when I chatted with Mark Cuban and his Expire app. The Expire app is a terrific app for athletes. It goes and validates and checks through your feed for things that potentially might be red flagged. I'd highly suggest all players heading into an NBA draft or into an AFL draft should run Expire app over their tweets and over their posts, and it will delete anything that potentially will come back to bite them. But the rule that I've discussed previously on the pod is my Arnie Kath rule. When I first introduced it, Arnie Kath was 99. Arnie Kath is now 100 and going as strong as the rule itself. My Arnie Kath rule is I don't want to have to write anything on social media that I have to explain to my Arnie Kath. And so everyone's got an Auntie Kath in their life, whether it be a Martin or a Nana figure or someone that they don't want to disappoint. That's always been one of my rules. There was also a study recently. I shared it on the Sports Geek Facebook page on the activity of athletes tweeting and posting late at night and their performance the next day. Again, another rule that I've applied and adopted was George Rose, Manly's George Rose. Or when I started working with George, he was at Manly, and one of his rules was he never tweets and never posts after 11 o'clock. And it's not about what he's doing. It's really just he says he doesn't trust himself when he's and it's late at night. And it's terrific advice, and the studies show that it does make sense now. Potentially, it's probably advice that could go to the leader of the free world as far as Twitter usage late at night, but I cannot get into that type of area. So what I want to do is sort of recap and go over the 5 tips for athletes going forward, and then do a little bit of a platform-by-platform analysis on where I think athletes can use the platforms. So the first one, which I mentioned in episode 107, it's definitely about routine. It's around finding a space and time around what you're doing as an athlete, game day, non-game day, training, non-training, and find out where it fits. Where you're comfortable. Like, remember, it's your routine. It's not the fans. It's not PR. It's not the comms department. It's your routine. So find out where it fits for you, and then follow that. I think that's it's super important, especially around game day. If you start both setting yourself as, I'm going to do an Instagram in the morning to say game day, and then I'm turning my phone off and shutting down my phone, whether it's going into airplane mode or turning it off completely, it gets you in that, hey, I'm flipping the switch. And it also, the other valuable part is also trains your fans to know, this is me signing off, getting ready for game day mode. I'll be back later, but you know that I'm not going to be responsive in this space. So I think that's a critical one. The modern day athlete is very much, routine based. They get told what to do. They get told what to train. They get told what to eat. So I think there should be some definition and routine around what they're doing, and set it to your own guidelines. You don't need to be following the guidelines of what social media platforms are telling you. If Facebook's saying do Facebook Lives an hour before, or 3 Facebook Lives a week, or posting 7 times on Instagram, no, it's your schedule. Your fans will appreciate your content, and your content will get through to your fans when it gets posted. So develop your routine and stick to it. The second one very much follows along what Nathan said in the interview around notifications. You're very much in control. As much as the platforms feel like that they're always pinging us and dragging us back into the network, as an athlete, you've got to decide when to use it. So the example of the bad game, and you're not reading and consuming all the media, it doesn't make sense to be consuming social. So understand when you're using it, why you're using it, how you're using it. Understand and monitor your mood and how it affects you, whether it is a good game or a bad game. Are you going there to look for validation from the phone? I think it's really, really, really important to understand how it can affect the mood. And really, don't forget that the second part of social media is media. And so, as I said before, you don't go and seek out all the traditional media after a poor game. So you shouldn't be doing the same on social. So look for a way to detach yourself from that and remain in control. And if you don't have self-control, then, consider doing things like deleting apps off your phone and making it harder for you to go and grab it and open it up and that kind of thing. If you find it is having that kind of a effect. I think the third one, and this is getting into the place where, so there was some preamble before the conversation on Sunday sessions, before the clip I played, with Luke Beveridge, the current premiership coach of the Western Bulldogs, sort of pointing the finger at, I know why the players have got it. They've got it to build up a brand and marketing and that kind of thing, and he didn't want them to have it. It is, from my point of view, from an athlete point of view, you do really need to have an idea of why you are on it. If you are wanting it to be on it from an external benefit point of view, I'm very much of the opinion, yes, you should be on the platforms because it is super vital to stay connected with your people, not fans, your friends, your family. I highly value that. But if you're going to take a public persona in the social space by telling people what your Twitter handle is, by getting verification, by having a public Facebook profile, by having a public Instagram profile, and yes, it comes with benefits. It might come with product that you can do product placement with, and influencer marketing, and those kind of things, and particular deals. Know why you're doing it. If you want to build up a personal brand to drive results for your business or get extra cash via influencer campaigns, then know that's why you're doing it. And then also start training your fans on that's what you're going to do. Because I think that's really, really important. I mean, if you go and build an audience authentically and talking to people all the time, and then 6 months later start running ads and doing product placement, it's going to really jar. So, take your fans and your fan base on that journey if you are going to do it. But yeah, understand why you're there. Because if you're just there for an ego, stroke of the ego and pump up of the tyres, then it potentially could turn really badly. Which leads me on to part 4 and sort of understanding the balance and understanding the game of trolls and super fans. And Jules Schiller there, who was on the Sunday Sessions, is correct. Trolling is a sport. It's a game for them to get a rise. And so the reason I put trolls and super fans in the same bucket, because they are just the different sides of the same coin. The super fans will completely pump up your tyres, say how wonderful you are, retweet and give you all the love in the world, and it's terrific and self-affirming, but it potentially is just as false as the negative teardowns that happen on the troll side of the equations. The good thing is there is now some ability, at least Twitter is starting to address the issue, and again I see trolling as a bigger issue in Twitter than it is on other platforms. They have got now the ability to mute new accounts. So Twitter has extended the mute functionality to say if you're a new account and you haven't qualified your email address and phone number, then you can automatically mute those accounts. But as I was saying on ABC, I would be playing around with mute versus block and always using mute and not giving them the satisfaction of seeing that they've been blocked. If you're just ignoring them all the time because you've never seen it, they are none the wiser. And I'm very much a believer in the not talking back and don't giving them oxygen. I think it does work for some fans. For some athletes. As sort of mentioned before, Andrew Bogut does a really good job engaging and not taking any rubbish from any fans. I think Kevin Durant, was very big on replying to a fair few fans after his finals MVP win, which you can do, and it's your right to do. But again, it will only raise the bar for people to have a crack and to troll you harder. So if you don't want that issue, for mine, it's just a matter of leaving it be and try to find a balance between ignoring the trolls and also believing everything that the super fans are asking you. So that's my 4th one on trolls and super fans. And then the next one is probably more on privacy and geolocation, and it is a place, again, where Jules said that the trolls and the really active ones can move into, and that's invasion of privacy and try to find out as much as they can. So the biggest gotcha for athletes has been when platforms change settings around geolocation. So geolocation is photos, tweets, those kind of things that have a place pin on them, and they're terribly accurate to a point where you can point out the difference between sending a tweet in your kitchen and your lounge room in some instances, and things with photos and the like. So Instagram has since taken that feature off. There used to be Instagram maps, and you used to be able to go and look at someone's profile and look at where they've tagged all their photos. And if you went on there, you could say, oh wow, that's where they posted a lot of photos from that location, and that most of the time that location was the person's address. So that was removed, and Snapchat Snap Maps has just been released in the last couple of weeks, and this is an example of, I guess, updated tech that's changed. And if you turn it on, it's a cool feature. It's a cool, creepy feature in that you can see where all your other Snapchat friends are. Now, that's okay, and you can have the setting to be in ghost mode so no one can see you. You can have it so only your friends can see you, or everybody can see you. So use it at your discretion. Obviously, if you start letting your friends see you, then you've got to be a bit more discerning on who your friends are on Snapchat and what they see. So there's that, and then the other side of it is the sharing on our story. So when you're sharing a Snapchat, you have the option to share it to your story, and then there's one for our story. All of those posts go into the public sphere. So if you're at a party, stacks of people are at a party, and they're all posting to our story, there's a potential for your snaps to end up in a public viewable forum by someone just opening up the map, seeing this activity, clicking on the map, and it will just show all the snaps that are in that region. So again, from a privacy point of view, and whether you're an athlete or whether you just want to protect your privacy, be very wary of what that Our Story does. That said, it's great to sort of surf around the world, see there's a big event on, whether it's a sports event, and see what the snaps are coming out of that are. And so I think the opportunity from a sports side, from a fan point of thing, is really good for Snap Maps. It can really double down on the fan day experience and how awesome it is to be at the game. But from a privacy point of view, it's something you want to be very wary of. I think the last thing I want to touch on in these 5 around privacy is just the communications of private versus public. If you're going to respond to fans, I'm always of the opinion that it makes far more sense doing it in a public forum, because if fans fans know that you respond to them privately via DMs, then they'll never talk to you publicly. They'll always think that they can just message you in the DMs and slide into the DMs, so to speak. So unless that's what you want to do and you want to talk to people in the DMs, it's just something to be very wary of. Fans will be more than welcoming and more than happy to contact you and talk to you via direct message and private message, because it's a one-on-one communication. So they're my 5, top tips. 1, develop a routine. 2, know that you're in control. You decide when and where you get to read it. Number 3, have a goal. Have a bit of a target around what you want to do with your social and digital presence. Number 4, around balancing and managing trolls and super fans. And number 5 is understanding your privacy settings and the impact of geolocation on the platforms you're using. So what I want to do now is sort of go through what I would say the big 5, and the 5 that I'm currently recommending athletes to be playing around with at varying levels, and very much matching the platform to the skills and the appetite of a fan. So I guess the number one at the top of the list by a long way from an ability to reach fans, and it's chasing down athletes really hard at the minute, is Facebook. They want more and more athletes to be on Facebook. They want them to use the black label Facebook Mentions app. If you're an athlete and you have not been verified, or you are verified on Facebook, you can do so via the Facebook Mentions app. Download the Facebook Mentions app and link the app to your page. The idea is it's meant to give a bit more of a easier experience and a page-to-page experience for athletes. So it'll make it easier for LeBron James to comment on Kevin Durant or Cristiano Ronaldo's post. So I think that's I think that's something that they're trying to get into the space in the same way that athletes have had no troubles interacting on Twitter over the years. They're trying to get that interaction and banter happening on Facebook mentions. It's still a little bit awkward at the minute, but I can see what they're doing. They're trying to make the whole experience a little bit easier for the athlete to manage. And so, yeah, if you can, use Facebook mentions, and that's the main thing, and effectively interact with the growing public, the 2 billion people that are on Facebook, via your Facebook page, via Facebook mentions. The other side of the equation, you will have a Facebook account. You might use your actual name. You might use a variation of your name to obfuscate and make it harder for fans to find your actual personal profile. I cannot stress it highly enough that you really need to completely lock down your privacy settings. So it makes it harder and harder for you to be seen. I would be also looking at things like not allowing friends and family to tag you on posts. Make sure you approve them. And also make sure that anytime you post anything, it can only be seen by your friends and not public. So they're the things you can do to limit your footprint from a Facebook point of view. But the more high profile you are, my suggestion, the less and less you post on Facebook, and really just use Facebook to stay in touch and keep up to date with your friends, but not post. Obviously, it's far easier to protect privacy of a profile that doesn't have many posts, because there is always tweaks to the algorithm and tweaks to privacy settings that could see something that currently you think's posted and is thinks private, and it could be public down the track. So that's Facebook. Happy for you to both be on Facebook pages and a personal profile, but again, just locking down the privacy. Instagram is currently the biggest growing platform globally. Added 100 million, the latest 100 million in a matter of weeks. It's now 700 million people on Instagram. And again, athletes and celebrities are driving and powering that growth. Instagram Stories is a real game changer in the influencer market. If you have a verified profile and a profile that's big enough, you can also drive traffic via your Instagram Stories. So there is a real big opportunity now for athletes to promote merchandise, product, send people off-site, which is a new revelation for Instagram. And by and large, a lot of the teams that we're working with are seeing really, really high engagement and click-through on Instagram Stories. So it does provide sort of two different features. So again, the same from a privacy geolocation point of view from Instagram. Again, be very wary of if you are going to put a location on photos, that it may reveal where you are, and the importance of that. And again, it's very easy in Instagram Story to put a tag, location tag on there. But if it's a regular coffee joint or if it's a regular restaurant that you go to, just be aware that it does open up the ability for people to find it. That's where you are. So that's Instagram. Again, verification on Instagram is a little bit haphazard. It's not as easy and it's not as straightforward as Facebook, but it is coming through. It's just a little bit lower on the totem pole from a Facebook's priorities point of view. From Twitter, so coming from Twitter, and again, I've been a big advocate of Twitter, but also I sort of see where it's placed in the market now, sort of pivoting towards being a bit more of a media company. They were pushing really hard to get the VITs, the very important tweeters, but unfortunately the troll problem, and it is at its peak at Twitter, is a real issue, and it's a real problem. So at the moment, if new athletes come to me and say, "Oh, should I be on Twitter?" It really is a sport-dependent thing. If your sport is really active, as an example, esports is super active still on Twitter, then it potentially makes sense because that's where your community is. But the troll problem, there is a thick skin needed if you're going to be on Twitter. I think some of the new opportunities to mute, only look at verified accounts, those kind of things can help. But I think the option for you just to look at your own verified mentions, so only seeing it from other verified accounts, which is going to get potentially worse because anyone can now apply for a blue tick. It's just really just to figure out if it works for you. But unfortunately, there will be a lot of mentions and not that much reward. And so I really do feel for Twitter, especially in the athlete space, because they appear to losing that battle, and they're losing athletes at a vast rate to Instagram and Snapchat. So that leads me to Snapchat. I do think it is getting harmed by Instagram's innovation. You could call it innovation or stealing product with their Insta stories. But that said, Snapchat still has a really strong user base in that 18 to 24 sort of market. They are continuing to innovate. You can now put links on your Snapchat stories. So it's very similar to Instagram stories. So that potentially opens things up if you want to send people to a particular article or a product and those kind of things. I think the main thing, and I sort of used Serena Williams there as an example, the main difference with Snapchat is that you decide who you follow and can become friends, and everyone else can just follow you. So it's built a bit more broadcasty, and so that limits the amount of trolling and backwards and forwards that you're getting. But it is a matter of finding out which platform you like. It might be, using Snapchat spectacles and giving fans a unique view of the world might be a way to go. But yeah, it remains to be seen who's going to win the battle. It's hard to bet against Zuck when he's in this kind of mode to chase him down, and the recent Snap stock price sort of dropping just below the IPO. It remains to be seen if it can pick itself back up, but I think they'll continue to innovate, and so I think there's an opportunity there for athletes, and I think the fact that they're adding some really cool search facilities, it makes it easier for people to find specific accounts and athletes. So I think there will be growth in the athlete space in Snap over the next 18 months. The last one that doesn't really get a mention a lot of the time when we're talking about athletes and social media, it's LinkedIn, and I can't talk highly enough of LinkedIn as a tool for athletes. It's super powerful in, I guess, connecting with the corporate world. One of the lines I like, it's Facebook for suits. So it's very much got a professional feel and vibe. And so as an athlete, you're connecting with a lot of people who are slapping you on the back and saying thanks and wanting a piece of you. And that's where I think you should be at least taking if I can say this, a passively active role on LinkedIn. And what do I mean by passively active role? I mean, you don't have to be producing a lot of content, but what you should be doing is keeping an eye on the invites that are coming in. You can still decide who you connect with, but connect with them with your future self's hat on. So if you're being connected with sponsors, big corporates, those kind of things, definitely connect with them, because those sponsors and those big corporates, when they move from job to job, you will then have their contact details. You'll be able to reach out to them. And I think the other opportunity is connecting with someone where you don't know where that connection might go. And again, an athlete's career could be 4 or 5 years or 10 years if they're lucky. Where are the people that you're connecting with now? Where are they going to be in 10 years when you are going to start, as I discussed with Nigel Smart in the previous episode? Where are you going to be when you start your business career, your second phase of professional work? Where would this network might get you? So I think it's quite valuable. So simply by once a month going through the business cards you've been handed at networking events and the like, connecting with those people at the very least, and connecting with people that potentially hit you up, it will make sense. And then the other thing is share a bit of your business story. Like, so whether you're doing a sponsor event or launching something, speaking somewhere, share a few of those snippets on your LinkedIn so people know that you can be booked for a corporate gig, that you can help fill filled rooms for events, those kind of things. Again, because you're a professional athlete, you'll have a lot of people liking it and patting you on the back, but it will potentially offer you some work down the track. But again, a little bit like sliding into your DMs, pretty much just ignore your inbox, because you'll be hit up with a stack of, I know this and I can help you here. And potentially, you could filter through them, but there will probably be a lot of bad deals and a lot of bad emails to filter through. So for the most part, just ignore it, unless it's something unique and someone sort of breaks through the clutter. So that's it. That's my wrap, my updated 2017 look at social and digital for athletes. If you'd like some more info on this, if you've got athletes that you think need some training or would like some help in understanding these platforms, whether it be in a one-to-one capacity that I've done with some athletes or a group capacity, which I've done as well, please reach out, Sean at Sportsgeek HQ, and ask me more. I'm really enjoying working with Jackson Frew, a young mountain biker, on what he's doing in social and helping him understand the space. This is a young and upcoming mountain biker. I've liked working with a few AFL and NRL guys over the journey, as well as doing some of those group sessions with Olympic teams. So potentially there might be some work with the Commonwealth Games coming up, or potentially with the AFL, NRL new batch of players coming in. There's always athletes needing a little bit more help, and the main thing is the platforms keep changing. So we've got digital teams here trying to keep on top of all of these platforms, and they're just keeping their head above water. And we're expecting athletes to just stay on top of it all. So that's it for this episode. If you're listening to this episode almost immediately after it's been released, you will find me at the Seed Conference. Seed Conference is in Atlanta this year. I'm really looking forward to it. But potentially by the time you've listened to this, I'll already be back. But if you're in Atlanta or in LA, please reach out either via email or the SportsBiz Slack. If you haven't joined the SportsBiz Slack, please do so. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Slack. I'd love to have you involved. And other than that, you've been listening to the Sports Geek podcast. One last thing, stay tuned for the sounds of the game. Thank you very much for Ben Kennings, who grabbed a snippet of audio at the Lions All Blacks game, which ended in a tie. They did not cut the trophy in half, but absolutely phenomenal experience. I saw Shane Harmon's tweets from Westpac Stadium. He said it was the loudest he's ever heard in the stadium. So thanks again for Ben for sending that. That's at the end of the game, hearing the Lions fans going berserk. Until next week, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to the Sports Geek podcast.
Join over 1,000 sports business executives in SportsBiz Slack. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Slack. Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. Find out how to drive between $8,000 and $30,000 in profit for each digital campaign you sell sponsors. Check out sportsgeekcampaigns.com. Just like Jimmy Butler, you can call Sean anytime at 614-407-0407-200.